And hello, everybody. Welcome. It's a new year. I'm not going to say the other word, but welcome back for our first stream of this year. So we're here with the Saboteurs. So this is a show in which we have a chat with players and reveal those characters that just completely refuse to follow and go out with the lovely plan that their devoted and loving game masters, dungeon masters have put out there, and they turn up and they decide to just do whatever the fuck they want and ruin it. So today we're going to be chatting with a wonderful, wonderful man. There's somebody who's been probably in my life for what? I'm going to go 17 years now. I'm going to go with that number and see what happens. Yeah, he's nodding at me at the side there. So it's got to be around that sort of number. But we're going to be talking, unusually on this channel, something that is not Dungeons and Dragons. I know. Shocking. So we're going to be talking about Blades in the Dark. It's another system that I haven't played before, but our guest has definitely played a lot and a lot and a lot. So we have a wonderful Sabotage DM sort of welcome to Mr. Neil Connolly. How you doing?
I am really good, mate. That is definitely one of the nicest and most succinct introductions I've had to a web call in the last like 10 months.
Okay. Well, I try my best. Yeah, all right. Yeah. I mean, New Year was New Year-y and lots of fire. Lots of fireworks, as we've seen. I'm going to apologise to everybody now who's watching because I can see that my frame rates are dropping all over the place. So my deepest apology there. But I can see Mr. Liam Fleming has already joined us, Mr. Mark Jeffords, and Sarah Morris.
My internet.
You can see you walking through your home. So I'm going to say hi to Sarah Morris and Liam Fleming and Mr. Jeffords. Good to see you. Right, there you are. I can see you again.
Yeah, I'm back. Sorry, I had to go sit near the router because my internet was being weird.
That's all right. I can see you've got a lovely cup of tea there. Beautiful glass of water.
Definitely. Oh yeah, lovely cup of tea. Angling this way. I've got literally spent ages setting up, and then as soon as you started talking, it all just went completely haywire.
Well, you know that's Sabotage. That's Sabotage the DM. That's what we're all about.
That is through and through. Now I'm balancing. There we go. How's that?
Okay, just raise up your camera just slightly so we can see your face. This is brilliant. This is exactly the type of chaos that I was expecting from you.
I'm currently balancing my laptop on top of the cat's like scratching post because it was the nearest thing to hand. So you like it's kind of like that moment in like in Chekhov, because we obviously studied theatre together. Yeah. Like this is the bit where right at the start of the show I've got the gun and I've just put it on top of the mantelpiece. So what I've done is I put my laptop on top of the cat scratching post.
Yep.
And we're going to wait at some point in Act 3 when the laptop comes off the scratching post. Chekhov's gun will leave the mantle.
Yep, and we'll see the cat's bum as it walks past the camera.
Oh, yeah. My cat absolutely mooning people.
Yeah, Sarah Morris has already put on his standard Neil.
Whoa. So harsh, Morris.
So we're going to be talking. I mean, obviously, you're an actor, theatre maker, game designer, experience maker. There's all sorts of sort of titles for Mr. Neil Connolly.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Cat owner is another one.
Yeah.
But you really enjoy playing role-playing games, obviously. Otherwise you wouldn't be here.
Big fan. I think I started. I think I was a role player before I knew I was a role player, and I liked doing it before I even realized that I liked doing it. It was a very weird kind of journey for me because I think I always just inherently naturally did it, but never had a title. I never had a format or an outlet for it.
Mm-hmm.
Because I grew up in a backwater town in the middle of Ireland.
Well, they didn't have dice. I mean, dice was just like...
Yeah, they didn't have dice.
No,
we just had like... out of bone. We just had like poker cards and that was it. And dogs, really skinny, like whippets. We didn't really kind of have that outlet. But yeah, definitely always
Because I remember you and I
kind of,
watching like Stranger Things, for instance, and you both immediately
yeah,
like, oh yeah, Dungeons and Dragons, yeah. And we got the board game out. We got the Dungeons and Dragons board game, which is nothing.
yeah. Bevins had donated it, so she was moving out of her flat, and then had loads of board games, like really old board games. One of them was Escape from Colditz, which is a banging game. But there was the D&D the board game, and then we watched Stranger Things. We're like, let's get the board game down off the shelf and figure this shit out. And then, like, it said on the box, it was supposed to be 30 to 45 minutes of gameplay for one session. But because you and I decided to give every fucking character a life and a character, so like instead of just moving the orc 2 spaces, we had to do like an entire 5 minutes of exposition before we could do a move. Yeah, that was a great night.
It was like 4 hours, and I think you died in the first dungeon.
Oh yeah. Didn't even make it out of the first dungeon.
We were sort of
I
setting
got
you up
into
for
some
D&D.
room. Yeah. I got into the first room. There was traps everywhere. There was definitely some treasure. But then I remember, like, there was like, I think I killed an orc or got past, killed one, and then ran past the other. And then I think one of them got resurrected, and it was like 3 rooms back. And it was like just watching the slow march of this orc come towards me through this board. And I was like hunkered down in this treasure room. And it was definitely like the last room of that board. But yeah, just got absolutely mullered because I'd expended all of my energy like trying to just get there in the first place.
Yeah.
So bad at it.
And I actually, you taught me one of the greatest lessons during that game, which was you search for you search for traps in one of the rooms, and I was like, yeah, it seems all right. And you freaked out for like 45 minutes tiptoeing through this room, and I was like, stealing that for later. That's perfect. So literally everyone else who watches this, who's had a game run by me, will know that I do that a lot. Blame Mr. Neil Connolly for that one. All right, so obviously as an actor and then also as RPG player, there's some crossover.
Yeah.
But what would you say is sort of like the biggest sort of difference for you when making characters for role-playing games, rather than making characters for theatre, film, or anything else that you kind of are working on?
Great question. I suppose when you're creating character for an RPG, you're definitely creating it for yourself and as some kind of projection of yourself and something that you kind of want to explore of yourself. Whereas when you're making it for theatre or for experiential stuff or whatever it is that you're doing, it's quite often to either deliver a message which is not of you, but of whatever the wider piece that you're writing about is or performing in, or you're trying to, because bear in mind, as you well know, or maybe not other people, like I work specifically within the experiential realm or interactive world of whatever theatre is. So you are not the star of the show. The people who, like the punters, consumers, as we call them, players, are the stars of the show. So you're quite often trying to affect something else in them. So it's never really about you ever, which is what I find quite fun. And it's like I've actually never really thought about it in that kind of like delineation kind of way. And like quite often, especially whenever I create characters for RPGs, like most of it's just nonsense. It's like, what mood was I in that day? And then it just goes and goes and goes into some very strange places. But yeah, that for me, it kind of very much sits in that kind of grey area of not grey area, sorry, of RPGs is to explore something in yourself that you want to, whatever fickle mood you say. But for work, for like art or theatre or whatever, it's always to explore something of the piece rather than of yourself. What I find.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like, I don't know. I feel like I'm in a very lucky position whereby for many years now, I often, in the work that I create, especially when I was being a performer, I got to I had producers or directors come to me and they're like, "This is what the show is, but we don't know who you are in it. So why don't you just write yourself into it?" I'm like, "Fucking cool!" It's a dream for an actor to be able to do that. Because every actor, I suppose, especially the traditional ones, they're just like, "I just want, the meat and the bones and explore something." And I'm like, "Oh, wicked! Right, what have I been reading lately? Moomins, okay. Right, I'm going to be Swedish in this, and I'm going to be a cow farmer."
So,
Like, that's great.
So are you saying that in role-playing games you could be all the meat and the you could be a
Definitely.
proper wanker? Is that what you're saying in the RPG world?
Definitely. With some of the RPG characters, I like some of the even though it's just mates sitting around a kitchen table getting wankered and doing what we lovingly call adult story time.
Yeah.
I feel like some of the characters have explored way weirder and way darker things than in like any of the art or shows that I've ever produced, directed, written, or performed in. And some really emotional stuff has happened. I'll tell you a bit later about one night where me and a bunch of mates genuinely were reduced to tears because of something that was happening in the story. And I was like, I've never written a theatre show as good as this.
Yeah, I know, right? It happens so often. It's like, should have been recording that
one. Yeah. Actually, I had a mate, one of my DMs, Johnny, actually messaged me about 3 days ago. We were playing just before Christmas. We do the sausage solstice every year. It's a week before Christmas, and we all get together and we play a game of flak gammon, which is where we throw bits of a dead pig into the air and shoot it out. But no one ever goes the whole hog. There's so much weird shit that happened in that game. Anyway, this was like a one shot. Like it was like season 3 of the sausage solstice. And Johnny texted me about 3 days ago, and it's only been like 2 weeks. And he texted me and he was just like, "Have you got any idea how the sausage solstice ended?" I was like, "No idea, mate." I mean, A, I was laughing so hard. B, I'd also like 3 bottles of wine deep at the stage. And he's like, "I haven't got a clue." And I was like, "I know what happened in the middle. And I vaguely remember what happened at the start. I have no idea what happened at the end." We had to text around everyone else in the group and be like, "Does anyone remember the end?" Until we finally got in contact with, I think it was Dean. And we were just like, "Dean, what happened at the end of the show?" And he was like, "Oh, you did some shit and then blew something up." And we're like, but we do that in every section that we play.
That's like the end of every episode.
Yeah, like we always blow something up. We know that. Like that's just what we do.
So it's one of those things of like, that's a great example of this of probably loads into the next question I'm going to have, which is you generally, Neil, are known as sort of Chaos Neil. Like you are a bit chaotic in terms of you. That's your personality, right? So when you play games, I'm going to read this question, and I can't believe I'm going to ask it. Do you consider the possible directions that the character might get into when you've created the character?
No. Next question. No, God, no. Absolutely not. In any way. No, in no way whatsoever. Not even for a goddamn second.
Right, let me just have a look. See if there any more that I can get rid. No, I can get rid of that one. Okay, right. Let's have a look at this one. What? So you, this is about Sabotage the DM. This is about players like you who enjoy, as you said before we went on online. You said it's your job to screw over the games master, the dungeons master as much as possible. So, what is sorry, Johnny and Dean. I just sort of let slip what Neil's whole plan is, but I'm not sorry at all, actually. So, what would you say is one of your favorite and most ridiculous situations that one of your characters has kind of fallen into? Right, mainly because of your action. Because of your action, maybe.
Oh yeah. So this is actually such an easy answer, and I will answer it in a second. But I'm going to go back for a second. Like, no, I do not consider where my characters go. I mean, like, I remember when I created Mabel, I'd read the entire Blade book before we'd even played our first game because I wanted to fully understand how it all works and what the mechanics were. What I learned subsequently after about 3 months, it was that I was the only person who had actually fucking read the entire book. No one else had bothered to. I mostly probably read the character creation pages, and that was it. So I was genuinely like, I was putting in the legwork. But I think when I get to character creation, I just create it, and then I don't. With Mabel, I definitely wrote a backstory, but I never decided where I wanted the character to go. But it has gone to fucking cool places. So yeah, that's just kind of quantifying that. Okay, the other question. What's been one of the best, funniest, worst?
What's the
What was
most ridiculous situation that one
okay?
of your characters has gotten into or caused the party to get into?
Oh, I've caused people to get into so many different things, but it's easier if I just do where I fit. So there was one time where I was playing, and I was Ted Danson, and we had to steal a bunch of. I think it was just large cats. It was the mission that was given to us, and we were going to steal them from a zoo inside the city of Duskwell, which is in Place in the Dark. So we were like, okay, cool, and everybody came up with this really cool plan. And I was like, I'm in the gang, so obviously I'm part of the plan as well. But how Blades works in the really fantastic way is that you do an engagement role before the job starts. So unlike D&D, where you have to spend 45 minutes while everyone gets their gear ready and kind of, and then you leave your tavern or your cave or wherever the fuck you are and make your way to said objective. And then there's a whole journey. And then you probably get distracted on the journey by getting lost in the woods, and then you meet something in the woods, and then you spend time with like a fairy, and you're like, 3 weeks ago we were walking just to somebody's gap to ask him a question, and now I'm in a woods with a fucking fairy picking mushrooms, like side quest bonanza, and 3 people are stuck down a cave, and you're like, fuck me. So it just gets a bit long.
So you just nailed D&D there. That's just D&D. That's it. You know.
Yeah. yeah, yeah. And like you were just going to your neighbour's gaff to get some milk or something like that. But no, question. Anyway, how Blades works is it got this really great mechanic where it's the engagement role where the dungeon master asks himself or herself or themselves a series of questions, and for each one that they say yes or no to, they take an extra dice. And then they roll that number of dice. And what that means is that if you roll a 6, you jump straight to the action. So you skip all the journey to the location. You imagine like in the way of if you rolled a 6 and your job was to break into a warehouse and steal a diamond that's inside a glass box. If you rolled a 6, you've already made it to the warehouse. You've already scaled the ceiling. You've already opened the skylight, and you're now dangling from a rope directly above the diamond.
Gotcha.
But if you roll a 5, you're on top of the roof at the skylight, but it won't open.
So it kind of goes backwards.
If you roll a 4, and it pushes you all the way backwards. So that's kind of what you do. So anyway, on this particular occasion, we rolled, and I think we rolled a 6. So we started in the middle of the zoo, already talking to the person who we were stealing these very large cats from. And I think it was like a couple of leopards, a cheetah, a lion, really like an ocelot, because I definitely wanted an ocelot in there. So we were already talking to the guy, and I think Liam was being our kind of bardy type character. And he's doing very well, and he's talking to the NPC and convincing them to give us these lions for free, or give us these big cats for free, because we were masquerading as like a veterinary service, and there was some weird disease that was infecting all of the animals, and we needed to take them away to the laboratory to get them tested, but we definitely bring them back. So he's doing that. Rob Thompson, who you play with, Rob was at the gates of the zoo, like keeping sketch, I think, or like he was on watch out, like performing a very functional role.
As he often does.
Yeah, like he often does. He's doing very, very well. Liam's desperately trying to do all these really great things. Meanwhile, what I had done was I had dressed up in like a full cat suit.
I knew you were going to say cat suit. I just knew it.
Yeah. So I had dressed up in this full cat suit, and, like in my head, but I'd forgotten to tell anyone that I'd put on a cat suit, which was my first problem. my second problem was it started with, so Ted Danson, where are you and what are you doing? And I was like, well, I'm inside the cage, and I open the cage on the inside, and I'm enticing the animals as they're like walking up to the cage to like get in the cage with me. And Dean was like, so you are inside a cage with some very large cats? And I was like, yeah. And then they were like, okay, what else do you do? And then I started performing all these dance routines, like trying to move like a cat. Um, so I'm doing all this kind of stuff, and like I was like closing the cage door with my bum, and then like swishing my tail around. And everyone else, like we were playing it online, and everyone else was looking at me, being like, what the fuck are you doing? And then Liam's like trying to convince more, like this guy to give us more and more cats and get them inside. And inside the cage, I'm like doing all these acrobatics, and I'm like hanging upside down. And everybody was just looking at me, and like, why are you being so fucking unhelpful? But not vocalizing that because, you know, we're not metagaming.
Yeah.
At which point, after about 20 minutes of like trying to heist the cats, we eventually got them, and then we're like riding away, and I'm like sitting on the back, and I just said this really throwaway line, like, oh yeah, I basically get outside the cage and I just light up a fag and I sit on the back and I just smoke some spark. And everyone was like, Ted, what were you doing back there? And why are you being so unhelpful? And I was like, well, I'm a master of disguise, and I've put on my entire cat suit because then nobody could tell that I'm not really Ted and that I'm actually a cat. And I was pretending to bond with the cats. Everyone lost their mind because I had forgot to tell them two crucial things. One, I was wearing a cat suit, and two, that I'm a master of disguise.
Yeah, two
So
really
everyone
important
just
things.
thought yeah, really important things. Everyone just thought I was being a dickhead and just like crawling around inside this cage with these massive cats, closing doors with my ass and being like, meow, meow. Yeah, completely unhelpful. I think
Well, I
also
love.
earlier in that,
I
I
really
think
love
very
that you started. You started the whole thing with D&D is like, oh yeah, just taking like going off and doing this thing, and it was like, so I was a cat in a cat suit.
I was trying to help. I was like, you know, it would be really helpful if I'm in a cat suit enticing the cats because I'm a master of disguise. I
Yeah.
mean, like earlier in that campaign, we had to go and do some research. We were breaking into, I don't know, I think we were breaking into the power station. So I was like, I'm going to go survey the area. So the DM was like, well, what are you going to do to survey the area? And I was like, well, I just stand on like a neighbor, like a warehouse building opposite the power station. And he's like, yeah, what else do you do? And I was like, well, obviously I'm going to have to make this dramatic now. It's going to have to be cool. I was like, well, I'm Ted Danson. So what I start doing is I put on my dancing shoes and I start doing like a cat dance a la cats on the top of this thing. And I ended up then attracting every cat in the neighborhood and enticing them up onto the top of this warehouse while trying to survey the power station that we were breaking into the next morning. And Dean was like, yeah, you've really fucked this. You really like the Pied Piper just running through the streets of Duskup and followed by every cat. Why? Because Ted Danson's a terrible thief, but he's an amazing dancer.
I think it's all thing. It's all in the name. I think that's why it just comes through.
Yeah, yeah.
All right. Well, I think it's.
Give me 1 second.
No, no worries.
1 second. Power charger. My laptop's dying.
All right. Well, while you're gone, I'm just going to quickly say hello to a few people. So lovely to see Isabella. And really great to see our lovely Baggy herself, Evie James. Lovely to see you, my love. And of course, Mama Thorpe. Mama Thorpe is here as well. Hi, Mom. Mwah. Really good to see you. Yeah, Mama Thorpe's here.
Hello, Sandy.
We got some people. We've got one of our wonderful subscribers here as well. So it says, Jess, good to see you. Lovely to see you back. So that's lovely. Okay, so here you are again. Right, so I think this might be a good time to actually talk about what Blades of Dark actually is, because it looks as if we're going to be delving into some ridiculous stories.
Sure.
Yeah, so Blades of Dark, I understand it's that it's not D&D.
No.
Right. So yeah, there's something. Talk to us about what Blades of Dark is.
Okay, so Blades in the Dark is a system that was created by a guy named John Harper. Story-wise or game-wise, you are in a industrial fantasy city. So kind of think like futuristic seems like a terrible thing to say. yeah, like Victorian, but more developed than Victorian, Dickensian industrial city that is full of ghosts and vampires, and the entire city is surrounded by a wall of electroplasmic energy, which is collected from the blood of whales that live out in this like sea, because like the city is like on an island in this like fictional world, and the city is called Duskfell. So that's where it's set, and so everything is like, you know, street lights. It's moody. It's like permanent fog and mist. Like there's just, you know, you like there's alleyways galore, and you can just hide in the darkness all the time. Guns sort of exist, but the main thing is everybody's got knives. It's a really dodgy place. You, game wise, you play as a crew, excuse me, of daring scoundrels who are seeking their fortune, not necessarily fame, because fame is sort of a bad thing in this world, but you're definitely seeking your fortune on these like haunted streets, because it's really great. It encourages you as a game. It encourages you to interact with things like the occult or these ghosts or vampires or whatever, but and like you're always carrying knives, and it forces you to get beaten up. Like never before have I played a system where you're actively encouraged to like get the shit kicked out of you. Because often, like, you know, you're walking around like, oh no, I can't get into a fight because I might die. Blades is like, fuck you, like you are getting level 3 trauma on this.
Yeah.
So you're basically playing this crew, seeking your fortune, coming up against all these things, and it is a bad thing if it's genuinely bad if you kill someone. You can't just run around willy nilly being like, you know, cut a bitch, because every time you kill someone, the death wardens come and take away the body, and they remove the soul from the body, and then they burn the body, and then they also get rid of the soul. But if they don't find the body or get there quick enough, the soul leaves the body anyway, and then just goes around the rest of the city haunting the shit out of it.
Right.
So there's quite often like you'll just be wandering along in the middle of a mission, and then if your DM's going to be a prick about it, it's like, so this random stranger that you killed 3 episodes ago has just turned up, and you're like, brilliant, okay. So yeah, it's kind of like you get into, you know, like anything, you kind of you're trying to just search out a fortune, but you've got to survive all these weird threats from like vengeful ghosts, like nobles. There's so many rival gangs.
Of course.
Because the whole thing's like it's just a criminal underworld in a fantasy industrial city surrounded by electroplasm and haunted by ghosts.
Standard lockdown, really. Isn't it?
Yeah, super casual. Yeah. So yeah, that's basically what Blades is. But it's also changed the like the mechanics versus D&D are a lot simpler. So there's no D20, you just play with D6s.
Okay. Cool.
And often you'll be rolling 1, maybe 2 D6s. But you can do things like take extra stress to get an extra dice. But you only have like a maximum of 9 stress per job. So yeah, you won't play it in like jobs.
Which is like why you had like get cats, steal from this, steal on the warehouse, more cats.
There's things that we've done, which was we found out the actual job we were given by our DM. The actual job we were given by our DM is you are in this bit of the city. You've just established yourself here, and we took over a room above a shop, and that was like our base, our HQ. And they were like, you now live in this neighborhood, but also in this neighborhood, there's this other rival gang who are stronger than you, but not like by a lot. What do you want to do? So we kind of went, oh, well, we obviously would like to move them out of this bit of the neighborhood. So the DM was like, well, what do you want to do? It was Johnny. And we did some research, and we found out that they had a gin distillery a couple of streets away. So we were like, oh, let's just basically go and knock over their gin distillery and steal their stuff. But the job escalated wildly while we were there. We ended up killing a bunch of people, blowing up the gin distillery and like half of the street. And then not only did we piss off the entirety of that gang, but we also went to war with the Blue Wardens, which is the police force of the city.
Right.
Which was also bad news for me because the background was I was an ex-cop. I was like an ex-dirty cop.
You're a dirty cop.
Yeah. I was like, oh, brilliant. We're now at war with the Red Sashes and the Blue Wardens, the Blue Coats. So we're a bit fucked now. So yeah, it's great. It's very simplified, but it just entices you into action very, very quickly, both with the engagement roles and just kind of getting rid of all the faff that a lot of D&D kind of surrounds itself with, of like the prep. It's just like, no, go. And, on your character sheet, you can just tick boxes for like, just tell me what load you want at the start. Do you want light, medium, or heavy? Light is like concealed weapons, nobody can see anything. Like, like I'm going undercover at a party. Or like medium is you're at a party, but like, you're carrying something a bit more heavy. Like if you get searched, it'll definitely be found. Whereas heavy is like you've got a rucksack, you're covered in ropes, you've got a balaclava on. Like you should be on the roof of the building, not stood in the middle of this party kind of vibe.
You're like definite criminal look.
Yeah. So like, and that's all you have to do at the start of your job. You don't have to actually like find anything or do any kind of prep.
Yeah, do you do like you and your party talk about what the job you're going to do, or do you literally just go straight in?
So yes and no. Like the rules of the game sort of stipulate that you shouldn't really talk about any of the prep or kind of do any of this stuff or what role you're going to do on the job. You basically just decide, like as soon as you're all sat around a table and you decide what the job is. Oh, like we are going to break into the prison and we're going to get our mate who's in there out. Instantly, the DM just goes, okay, cool. So I'm going to do the engagement role now. Right. And then it's like, blah, blah, blah. And then you do that engagement role. And that could, like I said earlier, you could roll and you could suddenly like be in the cell. It's open. You've already broken in. You've done all the shit. Now you've just got to get your mate and get the fuck out. That's the entire job, which is way more fun because it's just like gets you straight to the action. So yeah, there's kind of the DM's job to kind of just, as soon as they hear you say what the job is, they're like, cool, right, we're in. Let's go. No plan.
That's cool.
It's like, it works backwards. You basically do the job. And then after the job, you do, I can't remember what the mechanic's called, but it's basically like downtime. So what do you want to do? And that's where you kind of like heal your wounds, or you can go talk to some NPCs. And that's where you kind of do a lot more of the
stuff.
You do all the world building and exploring the world after you've done all the really fun action stuff for an hour or two or whatever. And you kind of like wrap shit. And that's where you kind of like dick around. And it does, like, I've been on sessions where, you start, you all get in, and you're all just chatting about what job you want to do. Like, just imagine like a bunch of criminals all sat around being like, it's Wednesday. I was at the casino last night. Cool. What did you do? Yeah. Did you see Sandra? Yeah. How was she? Sorry, I don't know what Sandy was in my head. Like, you see Sandra? Yeah. Cool. Was she on the craps table again? Yeah, she's on the craps table. Yeah, great. No, but I lost loads. All right, who cares? Was she going to
proper mundane.
Yeah, like, I just went to the cinema. All right, cool. What did you go see? Oh, I just went to see this new film. All right, yeah, wicked. Okay. Should we go do something? Yeah, what do you want to do? I don't know. Should we knock over the casino? Yeah. All right. And then DM is just like, right, cool, you're knocking over the casino.
Yeah, nice. That's really, really nice.
Like, go do it. And then when you get to the downtime bit, you literally just fucking sit there and chat shit for 15 minutes until somebody's like, do you want to go rob a bank?
Yeah. So, like, just so I'm clear, when you create characters for Blades in the Dark, is there like classes and stuff? Yeah, there are. All right, so let's jump and have a look at Mabel for a little bit. So, describe Mabel and describe what their kind of class or role is within the party as well.
Yeah. So basically, Blades is made up of, imagine your crew or your party. Imagine everyone's a rogue.
Yeah.
But you're just a different type of rogue. That's kind of how the game is built. So everybody's supposed to be sneaky, stay in the shadows, jab a knife. But you can be a different type of rogue depending on it. Mabel is what's known as a cutter. So the cutter is like the kind of the more fighty ones.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the kind of the best way to describe it. I mean, I originally, I think I was a spider. So a spider is like they're like a spy. They're like masters of information. They run entire networks of stuff. Always connected, all that kind of jazz. And I think I was trying to be that, and then we played 2 sessions, and everybody was like, "Neil, you are not a spider. You are definitely a cutter." And I was like, "Why?" And they went, "Because you've murdered like 8 people, like quite brutally as well, in a world where murder is bad, and you've been doing it like in the middle of a street." At one point, I think I killed a guy, and then like I held up the body in the middle of the street and like threatened the entire neighborhood. I was like, "This is what happens. This is what happens," and like everybody was sat around the table being like, "Fucking hell, this is really intense." So there's cutters, there's spiders. Who else is there? There's a hound. So the hound would be like they're kind of like a sniper. They're always like at the back somewhere. They've got like a long range rifle or something like that. Quite often like sitting on a rooftop smoking a fag, just overseeing everything, making sure everything's kind of like going pretty good. Who else is there? There's one of them who can attune with the ghost world very, very well. So they're like, I can talk to spirits, which is obviously very helpful. There's the bard figure. Can't really remember what his is. Sorry, I was just going through the different ones. So your question was, what's my approach to building?
No, so describe what you kind of see Mabel, like what do you think they look like what their kind of role is, all that kind of stuff.
So Mabel wore a very long, brown, dusty dust. Is it called a dust cutter? What's like the long, like a dust cutter, like a long, dusty trench coat. But it was like brown, like kind of like tanny brown, not leather either, like kind of like mole skinny type effect, like suede almost. And it was like completely like stained with like mud and piss and shit all around them. Like really quite rough. And he was a big guy, really, really big guy. Very hairy, like genuinely like you would mistake him for some kind of like itinerant kind of My Little Hobo figure that was like bumming around. Like, like that kind of like American 1970s, on the back of trains going from state to state kind of figure.
Yeah.
But underneath this massive trench coat, he still had his old blue coat tunic.
Gotcha.
So the blue coats are the police force in the town, but because he was a dirty cop. So he still has like the tunic underneath the big massive trench coat. And like he just had like wore these big boots. And he was always covered in hair, like really, really long hair, like massive beard, so that like he could my idea was that was his hiding in plain sight kind of scenario. Like he'd be like perfectly sat by the side of the street, in the middle of the rain in this fog, near a street lamp, kind of begging for change. But what he's really doing is, stalking the entire street and trying to case in the place. So yeah, big guy, covered in hair, massive beard, big old coat, big boots. Yeah, that's Mabel. Mabel Grandiron.
I think it's such a great name. And they were a cutter.
Can I tell you about the name?
Yeah, go on. This could be some sort of crazy logic here.
No, well, I mean, I did genuinely think about it for a while. And so I came up with Mabel Grandiron because I wanted something that sounded fancy and like kind of, well, grand. So I was like, I'll just call him Grand. But then I was like, I can't call him like Mabel Grand. I think I'd come up with Mabel because I just thought it was really funny that he was this massive guy named Mabel. And I was really trying to give a gift to other players. To like, we're all really, really hard criminals, and I wanted people to be like, your name is Mabel. Like,
yeah, and it's
what?
Yeah, and it's like, yeah, go on, say it. Just say it. Come on.
Yeah, but it's been 4 years, and they've never once mentioned anything about my name being Mabel. But they've taken the piss out of me for many, many other things.
Yeah.
So anyway, I was like, so Mabel, like, it's quite an effeminate name, huge guy, grand, and I was like, oh, it's just good enough. And then for some reason,
Oh, sorry, everybody on the screen. My internet has just failed. Fuck.
York in the 1560s. So I ended up coming up with Grandiron because I thought it sounded like a kind of New York Jewish lawyer from the 70s.
Right. Everybody, I just want to apologise there. You might have just had a big cut off as we've all kind of just come off the screen because my internet decided to fail. So my apologies there. I hope we're still going. So please do send us a message if I am still streaming. That would be fantastic. So if anyone's still online, just like please do send us a message and say that you're still here with us. I'm just trying to check everything out now. Yes, you're back. Damn you, internet. Thank you, Evie. I froze. I know I did. I'm as cold as ice. So you said there about people have taken a piss out of Mabel.
Yes.
Yeah. So talk to me about like what of the things that has happened that has made people take the piss out of you or made other characters take the piss out of Mabel? Because it seems as if there must be some embarrassing stories or ridiculousness that they've kind of done.
Yeah, and like this is where it kind of gets a bit meta and maybe not a bit meta. So when we all started playing the first time, like because I'm in 2 different campaigns or 3 different campaigns for Blades, and then the first time that we played it, like we were all new to the system. Like none of us had, like it had only just been released. Like the book was only just published, and like everyone who was in it was an experienced RPG player. But we'd obviously playing a brand new system. And I was playing with a lot of new people. Well, actually, I was playing with everyone in that group was new to me. And I don't know why, but just this system in particular and this character, Mabel, just brought out this weird side of me where I was always trying to help on the jobs, on the heists. But for some reason, I would either go too soon and it clearly annoyed everyone, but I didn't know it was annoying everyone because no one ever fucking told me. So they were like, everyone's like working together and we're building up to this moment where we're going to pull it off. And then I would just like smash a beer bottle over my head and just start self-bottling myself. And they're like, why? And I'm like, to cause distraction. I thought that's what we were doing.
I'm
doing
good.
Yeah, but they're like, no, but we don't need that kind of, we don't need a distraction. Like we're about to open the door. We're about to go through that door to get the thing that we need, and you've just decided to stand in the room at a party and start self-bottling. And I was like, yeah, I thought I'd be helpful. Because also that's the kind of thing that my character would do.
So it's very much like what is wrong with you type thing of the rest of the crew looking around at Mabel.
Yeah. But I had no idea because no one told me that I was being a prick about it. So I was just remembering some of this stuff and being like, oh, that was quite bad, wasn't it?
Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
But like it also got to the point where like after we'd all spoken about it, after a few sessions, when people like sat me down and they're like, so Neil, we love your style of play, but like it is really chaotic. But you do like hold your character very well. Like you always do it in character, which is why we can't stop you because you do it like it's what your character would do. It's just we never know like when it's going to happen. And so this is like the whole idea behind the character was at some point on every job, I would just do one thing that would just I thought was really helpful, but really wasn't. To the point where after 3 years, I was playing sessions and like I'd start the session and be like, just behave, don't do anything weird, like just be like super normal, like just spend the whole time just like stand behind someone else. Whenever you're asked where you are, I'm like, I'm stood directly behind that guy and I'm
I'm
just
being
waiting.
really good.
Yeah. I'm like, just being super normal, and nothing's happened. But the problem with that is that guy was probably always going like into the center of something and was doing something else. So then I'd be end up like in a situation that I haven't prepared for, in a room that I didn't want to be in the first place, and I'm completely. And my only reaction is, I'll headbutt someone. And they're like, why? Why would you do that? There was one job I was on where we were heisting a noble person's house. We were at his house, and I ended up like talking to the head of security, and I'd managed to get them out of the main party, and we were just like stood near a door in like a hallway, and he was looking away, and I was then asked what was I doing, because he was distracted by doing something else. Clearly, the DM was like, knock him out or something, like you've got him out of the party, no one can see you. So I was like, oh yeah, I should probably do something. So I started taking all the light bulbs out of all of the lamps in the corridor, and they were like, okay, why are you doing that? And I was like, so that no one can see me. And they're like, you're in a corridor with one other person, no one can see you anyway, just knock the guy out. And I was like, yeah, but then he can't see me knock him out because I've taken all the light bulbs out of the corridor.
And by the time the guy's going, why are you taking all the light bulbs out?
Yeah. It was just like, you're an asshole.
So I mean, talking about that, you said you had this one thing, which is that you have to do something. Is it that you made that rule for yourself, that you had to do something that you thought would be helpful, or is that just the way that your gameplay ended up being?
No, it's just the way. I never plan it. It's just the way the gameplay was, and I'm genuinely trying to behave, because like there's some times where I'd be like, oh, okay, like the self bottling thing. You look around the table and everyone's like, oh, fucking hell, here we go, right?
I suppose it's like that classic joke, isn't it, of trying to be quiet when you're drunk and like you end
Yeah.
up smashing everything open and like making more noise than you should have done. I just really love this idea of you sat at a game on your time off for your like pleasure time, and you're going, act normal, act normal. Oh, so good. So is Mabel still alive then?
No.
Oh,
Well, yeah. So Mabel died. But this also became a bit of a problem in itself, because so in Blades you can have secret missions or secret objectives. So when we were playing, Dean's secret objective was to become the most famous or the most infamous criminal in all of Duskull. And the only person who knows that is him and Johnny, who is the DM.
Mhm.
And you can do actions in your downtime to fill up a wheel. And once that wheel is full, your secret objective is complete, and you can then choose whatever to do with it. I think like James had another one, which was his secret mission was to build a submarine that we were then going to use to like move contraband around the city or whatever. But none of us knew, so they're all secrets. I never had one at the start of the gameplay because I just wanted to explore the character a bit more and see where the story was going or whatever. And after a year, Johnny was like, "Neil, you don't have a secret objective. Like, have you given any more thought to what you want it to be?" And I was like, "Yes, mate. I know exactly what it is. I want to die." And he was like, "Why?" And I was like, "Because I've been reading the book, and it turns out if you die, you can come back as a ghost or a vampire, and that's fucking cool. So I want to die and come back as a ghost or a vampire." And he was like, "Okay, it's a pretty weird request, but well, let's make it happen." And this is genuinely why it became really bad. So for 6 months, every time that we played a game, I was always trying to die.
Yeah,
And
brilliant.
no one else knew that was my objective. So they were like, "Why are you always walking into the middle of the most dangerous situation and doing the dumbest fucking thing that you can?" And I was like, "No reason."
That's such a perfect comedy trope as well, isn't it? Of just like the man who could never die.
Oh yeah. So what happened was, so there was one night we were all playing, and it definitely felt like a season end, but like we play really episodically anyway, and it's very free flow, and like we actually, I mean, kind of on the whole point of like Sabotage DM, like Johnny, who was our DM for that particular campaign, after a couple of months, stopped writing for us. He stopped writing. He stopped planning the sessions because he knew that no matter what would happen, we would just turn up and just do whatever the fuck we wanted. And he couldn't direct it in any way whatsoever. Like, we completely destroyed him. He wrote a blog about it because he was just like, I think it's called "When I Learned to Fear My Friends."
I should have a look for that now. Hang on, I'm gonna have to try and look for this.
Yeah. Because he was like, everyone was a maniac. So yeah, he couldn't control the sessions anymore, like, at all, because we would just turn up and he'd be like, okay, so today you're gonna be fighting the red sashes or whatever. Like, he'd come up with this really elaborate story, and we were like, yeah, but like, we're gonna go do this other thing. And he was like, right, okay, fine, whatever. So I basically became Mabel, and then I was trying to die for months and months, and no one knew that was my thing because I wanted to be a ghost or a vampire.
Mm-hmm.
And then this one night, we're all sitting around playing. Oh yes, that's what we're doing. We were breaking in to an eel farm to steal loads of electric eels.
Right.
And then we were going to release these electric eels into the waterworks somewhere else in the city and like electrocute an entire gang to death. Excuse me.
Bless you.
So I was in the factory in the eel farm with everyone else, and then just before I left, I was like, I'm going off to go do this random thing, and everyone was like, where the fuck are you going? And Dean, who plays a character called Nave, reached over to me and he went, good luck, and he offered me his hand, and I gave him this handshake. And just before I gave him the handshake, he looked at me and he just went, because we're in the middle of a mission, he was like, no matter what happens, we'll see each other again in this life or the next. And I was like, okay, cool, yeah, no problem, man. And I shook his hand. And then Johnny, the DM, was just like, okay, Neil, so you've now entered into like a devil's bargain with Nave. And I was like, why? And he went, because he's got this fucking mental hex on him, which means that whenever you shake his hand, whatever like deal you've done with them becomes binding and like an unbreakable kind of bond. So I was like, well, what did he just say? He's like, he will see you again in this life or the next. And I was like, oh, fuck, I'm like literally going to try and die right now in the middle of this mission while everyone else is stealing these eels. I was like, this is bullshit. So I headed off back out to like the front gate of this farm. I was wandering around in this like desolate field of eel farming. Yeah, trying to find the meanest, baddest possible person I could, so that I could get in a fight with them and kill me. And everyone was like, what are you doing? So I'm off on this like crazy side quest. You know, it's like everyone drunk at the party and me on a mission. You know, like fucking going off. I ended up getting into a fight with this guy, and the death scene, like I was nearly in tears. There was a couple of other people actually crying when I died, because like the guy basically like drove a sword through me, and I was like, ah. But at the last moments, just before I died, Nave turns up, and like he's like the last person that I see alive. And anyway, his promise was to get my body and take it away. I ended up being like my soul, because I mentioned about the Death Wardens, who like if they get you, they excommunicate your soul as well as your body. So he got me away from the Death Wardens, but they ended up putting like my soul inside a beer bottle, and then for protection, brought it to a house called the Dimmer Sisters, which are these two fucking witches that live in the middle of the city. So now currently my body's gone, but my soul is inside a beer bottle in the middle of a witch's house.
Nice. That's basically the end of Mabel.
No, Mabel came back.
Oh my god! Okay.
Yeah, but like came back. But I'm now. I can't remember. I think I wanted to be a ghost, but everyone was like, be a vampire. So I'm now a vampire.
Nice.
But I haven't really had much. Oh yeah. Well, actually, here's the really funny bit. So we were playing the Sausage Solstice just before Christmas.
Back circle, like a donut. Perfect. Yeah. Well done.
So we played the Sausage Solstice before Christmas, and this was like one of the first real sessions that I've been back since I died. And the very first thing was we were meeting the ghost of Christmas past, which turned out to be this woman named Mylera, who was the head of the Red Sashes. And as soon as he said Mylera, everybody went, oh, fuck. Because she's the head of the Red Sashes, who are this gang who all walk around with like massive swords and are really badass, who we brutally murdered on a bridge that we blew up in the middle of Duskfell. But my Lyra, who's the head of it, is also my ex-wife.
Uh-oh.
So as a character, I'm trying to like do the thing of like Neil being like, stand at the back, don't fuck anything up, don't say anything weird. Like it's literally the start of the session. Like everybody just wants to play, haven't even had a can of beer yet. Like just keep it super normal. And then Dean was like, so my Lyra, head of the Red Sashes, her ghost is now stood in the middle of a bridge that you've blown up. And we're like, fuck. And I was like, it's Neil's ex-wife. And I was like, shit. Well, Mabel's ex-wife. I was like, oh, shit. So he's like, does anybody want to go out into the middle of the bridge and maybe talk to her? And it literally goes down the circle. And everyone's like, no, no, no. Gets to me. And they're like, do you want to go out into the middle of the bridge? And I was like, what, to talk to my dead ex-wife? And I'm now a vampire? No.
Oh my God.
There was a bridge away, and then I think we blew up the bridge for a second time.
Well, it's that thing of like, there's such a beautiful scene that was there, and you know that it was ready for you, and you just like, no. The ultimate sabotage. No, I'm not doing it. And then we blow up the bridge.
I was genuinely like hiding behind. I think I was hiding behind someone else. Just like, no, I'm cool. I'm just gonna stand here in the shadows and smoke fags.
So good. So we're coming up to the end, unfortunately, of our little chat. But we didn't get a chance to talk very much about Ted Danson, but we know they like cats.
Oh, yeah.
They are cats, and they're a great dancer, but a rubbish criminal. We know that much.
Yeah.
So
Mabel,
gonna have to see.
Mabel came out of being like, I read the book, and I thought it'd be interesting to have like, you know, it's a criminal underworld. He's a dirty cop, or an ex-dirty cop, and kind of really explore all of that kind of stuff. Ted Danson I made in an evening because I'd seen some street art.
Yeah, I knew it was. I knew it was the street art.
Yeah, I seen the street art, and someone had taken Ted Danson and made him Ted Dancin, and I was like, oh, I'll just fucking do that. And then Rob, who we were playing with, his character had this like weird southern accent, like kind of like Tennessee, like, hi, how you doing? So in the middle of the session, at the start of the session, I basically picked him on that. So then he had this weird fascination with cats, really loved dancing, and had a southern American accent, and then became this master of disguise. I just used all those things as like some weird cornerstone to try and build this character off of.
So good. And we've already heard some like crazy stories from Ted Danson, so I think we're all right there. But Ted's still alive? Ted's still going?
Ted's still very much alive. Yeah, good. Ted's still alive.
That's very good.
No objective to kill Ted yet, because I'm really enjoying playing with Ted. He is genuinely quite. I think it's because also I think it's the first time that like I really leaned into the idea that he's purposefully a bit stupid. I don't mean stupid, but like, you know, his whole kind of thing is he just wants to have fun and he just really wants to enjoy himself. So that's why he's always dancing around. And he's always playing with costumes and character, but he always does it from like, you're like, oh my God, are we going to do a job? Does that mean I get to wear a costume? Oh my God, this is going to be so great. You know, and like just having fun with it from that perspective. Like he's a very good and very competent criminal, but he cares way more about what costume he's going to be wearing on the job than actually like what the end goal of the job is.
Yeah. So going full circle, sort of like Ted Danson is your meat actor. That's your character of like, this is pure artistry, as it came from art itself.
Yeah, exactly. It came from a bit of street art.
I have had somebody on the thing say Neil Buchanan, Neil Connolly never seen in the same room together. Both love art.
Both of us are Banksy.
Yep, both of you are Banksy. So before we finish up, I'm going to ask for a bit of advice. So it sounds to me like I'm trying to categorize like players, what players are, you know, a bit like Mindhunter. You know, I'm interviewing serial killers, players, and figuring out if I could codify them. So you definitely have what I would call maybe an organized chaos maker.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely. I definitely come from it with the best of intentions.
Yeah, it's like
I-
you try your best. You're not like a joker, like see the world burn.
No.
You're I'm gonna do the right thing, and it just doesn't go the way you think it will.
No, I think it's because I'm really bad at reading what other people are doing,
What
or
about like
just
accidental pessimist?
yeah, yeah. Accidental pessimist is such a great way of looking at it as well. Like I think I just lose patience because I'm like, fuck me, like everyone wants to talk. Why are these characters talking? And I'm just like, just headbutt them. Like, let's get it done. You know, we're criminal. I think it's also really funny because like we live in like this, like, especially in Blades, like we're all criminals, and other people I play with are constantly like, let's be nice to all the other characters, and like let's try and trick them into getting what we want. And I'm like, let's just fucking blow up half gaff and steal the shit.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm just really bad at reading.
Okay, so as an accidental pessimist, what would be your like advice for anybody who's kind of like trying to make a character for Blaze in the Dark or other RPGs that you would think is like your like cornerstone, important kind of thing that you hold on to?
Great question. What would I hold on to?
Or just like a piece of advice that you would say for people playing Blaze in the Dark?
Yeah, I think a lot of people, it's really weird because it's sort of like meditation in a way where a lot of people kind of constantly question, am I doing it right or am I playing correctly? Because obviously like D&D or any kind of RPG is like, you know, the game is a book and you're kind of expected to know every rule in the book and every facet, and so is the DM, but no one ever really does. And that's kind of, it's that really beautiful moments I've seen in other players when I play with them, when they look around the table and they realize that no one else at this table has any idea what's going on. And I think a lot of people put a lot of pressure on themselves to like know what's going on all the time, or like know everything about the character because they've been wandering through a woods for fucking months on end with this person or whatever. You know, they've been on so many questing journeys, and I'm like, fucking, no one knows what's going on. Just crack on, mate. But at least do it with the best of intentions and be nice about it, and like don't be a prick and try and screw over everyone else. But yeah, just kind of be present in that moment and kind of just don't worry about, does everyone else know what's going on? Am I the only one that doesn't know what's going on? Because no one else does.
Yeah.
Fake it. You can fake it on a large scale.
General motto, that one. I think it's like that's something that a lot of the saboteurs have said, of like this idea of be present, make stupid decisions, and like if you can think of every scene as the crux of the entire campaign. Like this has to be, like you say, I have to do something cool and dramatic here. I'll dance on the street to cats, you know, like it is that, and that's exactly right. Well, you've been an absolute gem having you on here and talking about Blaze in the Dark, even though you did like, you know, slack off D&D and stuff. But I'm so glad I got you on here. So thank you so much for being here. If you like what you see, so I just lost some of my lights. Hang on. If you like what you see here, obviously with all the technical issues and everything, do subscribe to us. My internet's gone again. There we go. Subscribe to us down below, and make sure you kind of keep on touch with what we're doing. And yes. So then my internet's gone again. I love my internet. Why is my internet gone?
No.
Okay, am I back? I am back. Lost you. Yeah,
Yes,
I'm aware. There we are. We're back. Fantastic. Yes, so if you do enjoy what you're seeing, do kind of subscribe to us down below. If you like what you see and you want to see a little bit more campaign work, come and see us for Waterdeep Mall Rats on Mondays from 7. I think I am looking for some more people to talk to here on the Saboteurs. So if you do fancy having a chat, whatever system it is you want to play, do get in touch, and I'll throw you on the channel and we'll have a chat and see what we come out with. But Mr. Neil Connolly, absolute pleasure. Please.
See
Well, the thing is, at some point we should go for what's the words? Oh yeah, socially distanced walking exercises. So yeah, at some point.
Yes.
So as usual, I'm going to say to you guys, everybody, please keep playing games, keep playing role-playing games, and of course, constantly and always be safe. I'll see you soon. Bye.